Good morning and welcome to our Wednesday Word of Encouragement. We're glad that you're joining us. Well, we're in week 4 of our Faith and Choice series as we're looking at the faith that we have in Jesus Christ and the choices that we have to make in Jesus Christ because of our faith in Him. And all that's based upon the cross and the forgiveness of sins that we receive and the spiritual blessings that God gives us over and over and over again. As we move into chapter 4, Paul's really going to emphasize something that we need to change. We need to get rid of the old and put on the new. Let's face it, most of us don't like change. We kind of get used to the things in life. We get used to our own little rut. We get used to doing things a certain way, and it's hard to change. But the change he's talking about here is getting rid of that old nature of the sins in our life. But he also gives a important principle that's found throughout God's word. When you get rid of the old, you have to replace it with the new. We are called to put on new attitudes and new actions. We'll be talking about that on Sunday morning. But I want to really concentrate today on this attitude that we need to have, this action that we need to have, that when we get rid of something that's bad, we replace it with something that is good. He begins by talking about falsehood or basically lying. And he says, you need to you need to quit lying. The Ephesians were known for telling lies. Let's face it, so are we. Uh, we we call it white lies, or we call it, well, we're just kind of cheating on the truth. But that's not what he tells us to do. In fact, he tells us to speak the truth in love. It's not necessary to always speak the truth, but when you do so with love, kindness. You look for how you can build others up. And then he says, in your anger, do not sin. He admits that all of us get angry at times, but that anger, if we're not careful, can lead to sin. It can lead to slander. It can lead to bitterness and rage and all the horrible things that can come out of anger. And he says, you've got to understand that you've got to replace that with mercy and humility and grace and forgiveness. You know, our society really promotes this idea of anger. Most TV shows spend 80% of the time talking about how horrible somebody is, and then they spend the last 10 to 20% of the time trying to get even with that person. If we're not careful, we'll buy into that same attitude of saying that I just want to get even with somebody rather than being forgiving as Christ has forgiven us. It really does make a difference. The University of Michigan did a study many years ago. They studied 192 couples, and they found out that the couples who had anger issues died sooner and had more health problems. Now, you may say they mean one of the people in the couple. No, if there are anger issues in the marriage by one or both people, those people have more health issues and die sooner. Not letting the sun go down in your anger, as Paul says, is an important thing that we need to develop in our lives. It really will enhance our life. It makes our life so much happier. Going to bed angry is a horrible way to sleep. And he says to be renewed. And then he says those who still no longer, but go out and to serve others. And the point being there is that, don't use your hands or your life in evil transactions and doing things that are wrong, but go out and work and make money, not just for selfish pursuits, but to serve others. And again, as we've said so many times, and as you know is true, when you serve others, it's a happier life than when it's all about me. And then he says, don't let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, no slander, no gossip. Oh, gossip just takes all the joy out of life. We think it's fun. We share with others, but don't you remember that those same people who you're sharing with are probably talking about you? We also know that gossip just leads to bigger and bigger problems. Slander's the same way. He says, rather, what comes out of our mouth should build one another up for mutual edification. Build each other up. Our language, our communication is so important. That's why we call this our Wednesday word of encouragement. We all need to be encouraged. We all need that loving. We need to build one another up. Let me encourage you this week to look in yourself and see those things, those sins, those things that you're struggling with. What do you need to get rid of? But at the same time, what are you going to replace it with? It's much easier to get rid of what we're trying to get rid of if we're replacing it with something that is good, something that brings joy to our life, something that makes us happy, something that pleases God first and foremost. We're glad that you've joined us for our Wednesday Word Encouragement. We hope you'll join us Sunday morning at 9 o'clock for Bible classes. We're having a great turnout for Bible classes at 10 o'clock for worship services. We'll be in Ephesians chapter 4 this week, and we're just going to be praising God and glorifying God. We've had so many new people come to Christ over the last few weeks. It's just a blessing of the great things that are happening among this family of God. We hope that you will join us. If you can't be in person at 10, watch us online. Have a blessed week. Thank you for listening.